your experience is only as good as your mentor.
Yeah.
Because of the way their model is, as you grow as an agent, and there are those, I mean, you're responsible for training them, and being there for them. It's not the leader's responsibility in the grand scheme. And so, you know, some agent can have a great experience. I saw some really, a handful of close friends there that are great mentors and great mentors. And then there are others that don't have a good experience. So it's tough to predict just because the people, the agents. As far as
If you're hungry, there's pizza and cake in the kitchen.
Okay.
And FYI, you're now being recorded.
Okay.
The thing about being a realtor is, if you don't watch it, you'll get fat like the rest of us.
Maybe I should.
that direction, I appreciate it, thank you. Okay. And just so I know the room, you're solo agent or on a team? Solo agent, and newer, you're in the productivity coaching?
I'm in the advance, so I've been here 4 years.
Okay. Here's your packet. Are you solo agent or on a team?
Solo, and I just started like a week ago.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Here's your packet. Solo agent?
Yes.
Okay. Pardon? Leroy, Chuck. I'd just like to know who's in the room, just so I kind of know what conversations to have and what not to have, or what's not necessary. I guess I should say. I wasn't thinking about, I forget in productivity coaching here that there are agents on teams that are in coaching. After training of the 4 transactions, they step onto their team full time. Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Should I sit on this side?
Take your choice.
I just want where the air conditioner is not gonna be. It's so cold.
The back corners are cold.
I know. I was sitting here, you are.
Oh, goodness.
I won't do it again.
Like
Like in the last meeting, that's where I was and I was freezing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know whose cup this is, so I'll share it on the table.
Yeah, I'm not for sure. That may be Brian's.
Oh, I can pick him up.
Are you solo agent or are you on a team? Okay, and how long have you been in the business?
2 years, a little over 2 years.
Okay.
But just at Keller Williams since July.
Okay, cool. And are you in the PC program?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So very similar also. Sir. And you're a solo agent also, right? Not on it. Presentation much easier. We don't have those that are on the team as well. We also have to do a little extra math if they're on a team. Say we have to generate more in production.
Right.
Is there a team split? Stacy, can you hear us okay? Can you give me a thumbs up? Okay. And I don't know if Brian has yet, but he's gonna, when you guys pop up on Zoom, he's going to email you the packet so that you have something to see and like follow along. So
Awesome. Yeah.
I'll have him.
I'm not going to stay up on the screen the whole time, am I?
You're small.
Oh, Lord.
Can you
Okay.
get over to Stacy?
Yes.
Thank you, Brian.
So as we're kind of waiting for some others to join us, tell me like at 3:30 today, what would make this 2 hours a win for you? What would be time well spent? What do you hope to get out of it? Plan. Okay.
So at least get started on my plan, because
Okay.
I've had it on my whiteboard, but I haven't done it, so.
Right.
Kind of knowing how, because I've never actually, I came from a team before and never really set my own business goals. And,
Okay.
need to know how.
So like on that team, you were more just a doer, kind of like.
Kind of, yeah.
So this is all you now?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I did my best. I reworked this. In true transparency, I was at a goal setting retreat over the weekend myself that I was diving into, participating, not facilitating, because I wanted to work on some things in my own world. And so I began working on a piece of this weekend, and then yesterday about 2 o'clock is when it all came together. So I've done my best to simplify it, and I tested it with another brokerage this morning, Aria. They're one of our broker partners with the locker room. And so we were over at Norman Ward and did a test run of this packet with them, and I could see the connections happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, great. That's exactly what I was wanting to happen. So the plan, or beginning on the plan, anything, just kind of think through, there's no wrong answer, just kind of think through thus far. Is there been anything that maybe you conceptually understand, don't know how to carry it out, or just you have this piece of understanding, but you know something's missing over here? I know that's I'm speaking very vaguely, and I'm trying not to lead you into doing certain.
I just check all the above.
Okay. Hey, I know. It's like, I don't know what to say because I don't know what I don't know, you know?
Exactly.
Right. Right. Brian, do you think we should go ahead and get started? Should we wait a couple minutes? What do you think?
I think we should go ahead and get started.
Okay. All right. So we just have one. Do we actually have two on Zoom, or is the top space? No, I'm at
The bottom one is us.
Right.
I'm here too, Chuck. Skylar, you just can't see my face.
Oh, okay. Hey, welcome.
That's Skylar?
Shut up.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, well,
And
welcome,
Angie's
Skylar.
here.
And hey, if you would, Skylar, if you would like any of this to do with your group there, Paul's Valley, just let me know and I can email you over bits and pieces of it so you have PDFs of it.
That would be amazing. That's why I'm here.
All right, awesome. We could even schedule a Zoom time. I mean, if something like that would work for everyone, we could even schedule a time and just do it virtually.
That'd be amazing.
Or, you know, my mom might really like me to come down and visit, so it might even could work it out live in Falls Valley. My parents.
True. Well, we'll connect and we'll figure it out.
Up for that.
Stacy would come to Paul's Valley.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so the journey I'm gonna take you guys on today really is assessing where you are and where you desire to be. And a lot of times I feel in goal setting, we can work through the financial pieces of it. And yeah, it all looks good on paper, but then how do I create the plan? How do I execute it? And how do I do it in bite-sized pieces that I understand and that I can do? And that's where we're going definitely today. And my hope for you is at the end, we actually do draft at least part of your plan. And I've got an example that I will share with you with some pieces that'll kind of give you ideas as well. does that sound like a plan? All right, well, I guess I can tell you a little bit about myself first. Some of you know me, some do not. So I've been licensed in the metro area since 2001. I can't believe it's been that long. And I've done everything in the 20-something years, from solo agent to being on a team to even at a time in my life where my daughter was adopted and I was the one in the household that could that had a more flexible schedule, and so I chose to be the stay-at-home dad for a while until she was at the age to be in daycare and all, ramped it back up. I have been on a leadership team. I was a productivity coach at Keller Williams Elite in Oklahoma City from 2016 to 2020 for 4 years there. We had quite a sizable program there. At any point in time, I was responsible for anywhere from 55 to 70 agents in their first 2 years of the business. So that was 24/7, 365. And I kind of just, in true honesty, I just got a little tired. And there was something more I was after. I didn't really know what it was. And in conversation with some relationships I had in Keller Williams, the locker room came, the conversation around the locker room surfaced. So in March of 2020, I became the, say, rep, so to speak, for the locker room here in Oklahoma. And so the locker room, you guys are partnered as a brokerage with the locker room, and there are a few others in the metro area. And we basically support the brokerages through either broker leadership coaching. That's like, so, you know, I'm interacting with you guys today weekly. Well, now every other week, I'm on a call with Brian, and then weekly Stephanie and I touch base. So what does the program need, and where do we want the program headed, and how is it going to evolve? And so my coaching plays in, like, kind of through them with this. I do have some other brokerages that specifically just want me working with their agents. And so there are a couple that I meet weekly on Zoom with, just like Brian meets with you guys as a coaching group. I'm doing the same in a couple of other brokerages as well. So we support the leadership and agents through the platform that you guys have experienced within the locker room. So all that being said, I have a lot of variety in my life, in my day-to-day job, so to speak, and I'm much happier that I have variety. I like mixing up the conversations and interactions and all, and not being tied to that desk from 8:30 to 5:30 every day, you know. All right, so that's me, and I just say that really so that a lot of times when you're learning, if you kind of get the feeling that who's presenting hasn't been there and done it, you're like, well, that sounds good. Yeah, have you ever walked in my shoes? And I can 100% say I have. I still do to a certain extent, because everything I built with my relationships in Oklahoma, with the brokerages through the locker room, I've had to start from nothing to where I am today and where I'm still going. And so it is lead generating, it is business generating, it is following up, it is retaining, and you know, making sure those clients, which are my brokerages, stay with us. So I'm really living it, just a little different type of role, but still very similar as you guys are today. So just again, say all that to kind of give some just credibility and buy-in that, okay, you can trust me. Okay. All right, so let's look into your packet. Does this look familiar? Does it look familiar to everyone? Does not look familiar to everyone? It's the first time it's the first time you've seen it. Have you seen it? No. You have. You have. Okay. For those of you that have seen it, I would, since we don't have 100% consensus in here, everyone has seen it and completed it, I would like to work through it with you. We do it at a pretty fast pace, and you know, it never hurts for us to revisit something, whether that be a course, a book, a workshop, because you know, you two are not the same people or same mindset or same place in the day that you were when you first saw it. So you may hear something differently today. You may find that you're able to move the score that you give yourself a little as well, or you have maybe more of an understanding of some pieces, know how to score yourself. So this is very similar. I mean, if you've ever done like a wheel of life exercise where you're evaluating yourself, did everyone on Zoom, is Skylar still there? Or did she log off? I don't see her. Okay. Did you send it over to Skylar?
I sent the packet to Skylar and to Stacy.
Okay, cool. So if you've ever done like a wheel of life exercise and you're seeing, you know, your balance in your life, this is that for an agent. And the idea is that this is a snapshot of what a well-rounded, sustainable business looks like. And these are all the pieces that you should monitor and grow in to have that, that type of business. Now, we're gonna find that maybe we got a nail in the tire somewhere on one side or so. It's very likely, and that's okay. It's not to be, you know, it's not to shame you, it's not to judge you, it's just reality. And where can you, as we're goal setting, where can you focus to move that score a little bit in 90 days, in 6 months, or in the next year, okay? So if you look, we have 4 quadrants. We have productivity, growth, systems, and profitability. And I'm gonna walk you through these. You're going to put a score in the little pie shape or outside it if you want. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The right way is just to simply score yourself. But if you want to shade it in, that's fine as well. Where you pick your number doesn't really matter. Just be consistent as we progress clockwise around the wheel. So we're going to start at first in productivity. Now, I'm going to give you, I'm going to speak as we do it, and I'm basically starting kind of from what potentially could be a 0 or a 1, and if you're doing the things I'm saying, then your score increases. But like your 5 is your 5, and your 7 is your 7. There's no, I'm not going to say this is a 7 or this is a 5. So just again, you know, be consistent there. This also is incredibly important for conversations you're having with your productivity coach and in that relationship, because it just allows him or other leadership also potentially, if you have a conversation with Stephanie, to see where you fall and get guidance from them on how to grow in those areas. So let's start at the top with productivity, production. That's the income. And this is typically where we're all a little more comfortable, because that's what we typically have to start doing in the beginning. And then we start kind of taking care of everything else. So lead generation, business generation. Are we doing it to some capacity? It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be phone calls. It can just be conversations. It can be email campaigns. It can be just your open houses for sell by owners, expires, whatever you may be doing to generate business, networking, etc. So first, are you doing it? And then as you move that score up, so to speak, is it consistent? Is it on your schedule? Is it at least 5 times a week? Anytime today when I speak of weeks, see it as 5 working days, not 7. Okay, we don't want that happens to us. In all honesty, we know it does. Yet the goal is to keep it from happening as much time or as much as possible. So score yourself there in lead generation. Time management. Are you controlling your schedule, or is your schedule controlling you? Are there pieces in your daily schedule that are systematized, or is there a certain spot in your schedule that you lead generate, but yet then another part of your schedule is open to inspections or showings and your appointments? I mean, do you have some kind of system around time management, or is it just a free-for-all there? Referrals. This is what percentage of your business, your sales, is coming through referrals. Now, you don't have any production just yet, I mean, that's going to be, I guess a 1, it's gonna be down there on the inner. What would you guys think is a great referral business to work toward? Like if I was an agent of, say 5 years in the business, it's not gonna be a great referral business. How much, what would you think, like what percentage of business would be coming through referrals?
33%, a third.
A third?
Yeah.
Hey Chuck,
Yes.
for referrals, do you mean referrals from other agents or from past clients or both?
Both. Both.
Okay.
Because because Stacy, you're nurturing and growing a relationship with both of those. So it would just be business. I don't want to say just handed. Yeah, yes, someone else is bringing you that business versus you generating it 100% on your own.
Okay.
That's a good question. Thank you for asking that. And that brings up a good topic here. Do any of you, have you lived out of state, like for a time period anywhere else? Do you have roots and relationships somewhere else? Okay, don't rule out relationships you have there, and to take it one step more, grow a relationship with say 2-3 realtors in that area as well. Because as you're staying in contact with those people relationships, when they have a need, you have a realtor for them. So make sure you're always communicating that with those relationships as well. It could be through Keller Williams. You might find, Keller Williams is about everywhere. You will find some pockets of places that, especially if it's kind of outlying areas where there might not be an agent or an office there. So you may have to work through some other networks. But don't rule that out. That's easy income. You're just connecting the two, all right, so we've completed those 3 pie shapes of productivity. Add those 3 together and put it out there to the side in that blank, and that'll be your score in the productivity quadrant. All right, so we're gonna move around to clockwise to growth. And in this quadrant, we have database, vendor partners, and personal growth. So database, do you have one? Are you organizing it? Are you updating all the information? Is it in command? Right? Okay. After I said that, I'm like, is that the right word? So is it in command? Are they set up on some type of campaign? First step is a monthly email type campaign. Are they hearing from you? Are you working toward, like a quarterly call or reach out to them? Some other pieces would be some agents send, like a handwritten birthday card or something like that, where there are touches happening with that database. All that's going to move that number to a higher number. Your vendor partners, encourage you to look more beyond, or further beyond, I guess is a better way to put it, than just your lenders, title companies, and inspectors. Who are vendors that would benefit you in this industry, as well as them benefiting, you benefiting them as well as them benefiting you. So lawn maintenance, sprinkler systems, the roofers, cleaning people. I can't tell you how many times on social media, how many times are realtors needing a great cleaning person just for a make ready, If they're self-employed, you're self-employed. See them that way. You build that relationship with those vendors, and there should be some exchange of business. It's not going to be your primary source, but 1-2 transactions a year isn't bad. If you have 25 vendor partners, you're gaining a referral, just 1 referral a year off of them. And the reason I say think beyond your lenders, title companies, inspectors, is because they tend to have the most realtor interaction than some of the others. Personal growth. We always kind of let ourselves come last, and I encourage you to not. Now, when you're newer in the business, a lot of your growth, your learning, your training is going to be real estate focused. However, as you get accustomed and you get a little more knowledgeable and more confident, where are you gonna add some growth to your life? It could be spiritual, it could be just a hobby, it could be other workshop, could be your good old friend Audible and with some books. But if we're not growing, we're dying, and complacency sets in. Then when complacency sets in, we start wanting to be creative and mix it up a little, and then that's when distraction happens. So the way, we always want to be, as in the Keller world, saying knowledge-based, like growing and growing yourself. So that's the 3 sections in the growth quadrant. Add those 3 up, drop that total down in the lower right corner-ish of the wheel, not the page. Okay, we're gonna move on into profitability. So profitability, transaction management. Do you understand the transaction process from contract to close? Or you have a great checklist or cheat sheet that can help you. I'm not saying it all has to be up here, and we all need leverage in our world, and sometimes that checklist is great leverage. There's nothing wrong too of scoring yourself higher in this area if you were outsourcing your transactions. Now, I always encourage, as kind of that coach and mentor, always say, know it, and then you don't have to keep doing it. I mean, have an understanding and a knowledge of it, and then if the compliance and paperwork's not in your wheelhouse, outsource transaction management. That frees up a lot of mental space and time for you. Client care. Client care, I define client care on here as when a lead comes my way till the time we close on a property. So that care of that client during that time period. To me, after closing, they become part of my database experience. However, I'm communicating, with the database and staying in touch there to keep that relationship going. So client care, is it consistent? Like, is client today getting the same Chuck experience as the client last week did, and the client next week will? Am I consistent with my communication, my processes, their whole experience? Follow-up. We always hear that fortune is in the follow-up. Guys, it can be as simple as reminders in your phone. I have a block in my day from like 2 to 4 that's just on my schedule every day. And if there's someone I need to follow up with, I just drop their name or contact info in that appointment space that's already there. And each day I know to go look and see if there's anyone I need to have a follow-up call with or send a follow-up email. So it can be as easy as that. There's just so much of the time we may be out and about today and have a conversation, and someone doesn't want to do something until next spring. So how are you going to ensure that you're reaching back out to them at the appropriate time? And if you guys will remind me, I have a follow-up timeline. It came through on one of our locker room Zooms, and I had never really heard it presented this way, and I thought, this is pretty cool. So it basically, it starts with someone that's far out in a decision-making process, and how often am I going to just check it with them versus up to someone needing to make a move in the next 30 to 60 days. So I got that in some notes. I'll let you take a screenshot of it and have it and implement it. All right, so those are the 3 in the profitability. So add those 3 together and drop that score out in the lower left.
So
I'm sorry, that was systems. I said profitability. I kept calling that profitability. I'm sorry, that was systems. I'm sorry, what's your question?
So under transaction management,
Mm-hmm.
I turned everything over to Sandy, so she takes care of me.
You're 10 there, as long as she's doing her job, right? Your score is only as good as your transaction manager there, but that's very systematized. I mean, I know because I had a conversation with her, and when you are turning it over to someone like that, yeah, it's going to be taken care of as long as they're performing at the level you need them to and keeping you in the loop with things. Yeah. All right, now we're coming up to profitability. I'm sorry, I kept calling that quadrant systems. And so profitability. This is one where we all go internal just a little bit, and including myself. And so this is where we become business owners, is in this quadrant typically. And if, you know, the idea here is if you don't have something in place, just have the awareness of where you need to go with this. So net worth. Net worth is just, what do you want to achieve in life? What are your financial goals? What are your investment goals? Like when, you know, is there ever enough? I mean, is there a point in earnings or a point where certain debts are paid off that you feel like you've arrived and now it's just maintenance? Or, you know, is the sky the limit? And I mean, it's different for all of us. And so your net worth is just, where are you financially in your world or in your household? Budget. This is work related, not life related. So are you aware of budgets within real estate? Are you aware of how too much spending, what percentage of your income is too much spending? Within Keller Williams, there's some great resources in the NREA book. I can give you a great simplified starting point. When you have a commission check in, if you would, if you split it up in this way, and you're going to be on a successful path. First of all, have an account of some kind that can be your taxes. Immediately, please listen to me. It's no fun catching up. It's no fun catching up on taxes. So I would say 30%, and we usually when we're doing business plan, we say 30%. 30% of that commission goes into an account for taxes and sits there. Or you can make payments as many times as you want directly online, you know, to the IRS, to the state. Just keep track of it. Have you a file or a folder in your email. But 30% to taxes, 30% stays in an account for real estate. And that's what we call your operating account. So fees, lockboxes, photos, marketing, a workshop, I mean, whatever you need to do or need to pay for in real estate comes out of that 30% holding account. And then 40% goes home with you to do with what you need to do at home. If you can follow that simple method right now, then you can start diving into, well, in that 30% operating account, how should I be spending, or what should be, you know, my limits? There's a great book out there called Profit First by RST that works through this process. It's a little more complicated than this one. I think he has 5 accounts. I simplified it down just a little bit. And then in the locker room university where the modules are, there, one of the national directors has a module in there called Profit Sense, S-E-N-S-E, not C-E-N-T-S. They like sense, and it goes along with the same concept. If you ever want to revisit it at a little deeper level, you can look at that one also. And then profit and loss. Most of us as realtors don't see something printed out or how our money fluctuated or is managed through the year until tax time. And you know, a lot of times if you think about it, we're filing taxes. I mean, if we're filing them on time, we're in April of the next year, and a lot of times it's very customary to extend up to like September, October. So we're almost a year behind when we're seeing those reports. And so that's definitely, you know, again, I know everyone starts going internal here and self-inflicting, self-included. Yeah, this is the quadrant that our industry has a lot of opportunity in the managing the money. So add up those 3, put that in the upper left. Pull out your good old calculators on your phone, and you're going to add up your 4 scores and divide by 120, because there's a total of 12 pie shapes. So we have the opportunity for 120 points. If you divide it to by 120, your score by 120, you will have your grade at the bottom. And do not freak out.
Yeah, I'm not doing too hot.
right? We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Again, the idea on this exercise really is, where am I, where do I need to be? And what's the ultimate goal? And it's really not possible to do it all overnight. And that's, the goal setting is, what direction am I headed? Where can I move that score a little bit? And I want you to think too, like revisit this wheel and, if you were a 6 in a pie piece, what would it do? What would I have to do just to move it to a 7? Like in your own mind, within yourself, what would that be in, say database to go from a 5 to a 6?
How often would you revisit that? Like once a quarter, once a year?
I think once a quarter is healthy. Or depending on urgency, there's four quadrants to this wheel. What if in 2022, there was a focus each quarter on a quadrant? And then at the end of that quarter, if you've ever heard of the 4-week year, like 4-week, I just combined.
Isn't it 12 week?
12-week year, there we go. I just combined like 2 book titles, 12-week year. It's centered around having a 90-day focus. And you might have a business goal and a personal, but it's just one. It's a lot like the one thing concept. Yet instead of having a goal of 3 or 4 things over the course of a year, and you kind of get lazy in the summer, and you make up for lost time in the fourth quarter, this is a 90-day focus to ensure that you're on track and that you get it done. So, a way of adopting that could be a quadrant every 90 days to put things in place. And don't, I say don't overwhelm yourself with attempting to go from a 5 to a 10. Just what would be the next step? That's just step by step. All right, any comments on that? Any questions other than what you've already said? Stacy, are you good with this? Okay.
I think it's a good eye opener to evaluate yourself. We don't evaluate ourselves. Well, I don't evaluate myself enough. I don't know
Right.
what other people do, but I don't.
Well, and in true honesty, sometimes there's fear.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't want to know the answer. We already know. Sometimes we just don't want to see it, And there is power in shining that light on it and just helping your mindset. Just what would make you feel better? What can I do just to go one step more? And celebrate the small successes. Don't feel like you can't celebrate until you get it to a 10. Please don't do that. Okay, so we're gonna work to the next sheet, and I like starting with this one. Those of you, well, one of you did with me last year. I took, there's pieces from Keller Williams, there's pieces from the locker room, and I took and simplified this down. I mean, numbers are numbers, and goal setting is goal setting. I just didn't want to get too analytical, and I wanted you to see the pieces of how they fit together as we work through this step by step. So I thought the most natural next step in progression with Keller Williams would be how to write cap. And we all hear of being a capper, and that could be the income you desire. It might be a portion of the income you desire, yet it is a benchmark, so to speak, within the Keller Williams world. And so let's start with just some initial information. We know to cap here at Mullinex is 18,000 in company dollar and 3,000 in royalty to the international office, so a total of 21,000, right? So no one in here is on a team. That was one of the questions insiders asking that question, because then we get multiple paths going in here. Okay, average commission. Let's talk about this a minute. And let's first talk about average price point. I pulled up Norman this morning, or not Norman, I pulled up the MLS this morning, and September ended at right about 220,000. I think that's a pretty good average price point. I didn't, because Mullinex has a lot of transactions, it's not a quick and easy. I did pull up Molinex. Brian, do you guys talk about your average price point at all? Like
Here in the office, no,
No, okay,
because it gets a little complicated because we have Norman, and then we have the people that are in Oakmar, so that's a separate company, and combining the two, it gets a little complicated.
okay. And of course, you know, outlying areas, like your business centers in Ardmore and Pauls Valley and those outlying areas, they're different as well. So if you have a history and you actually know kind of what your average price point is, you can use that. If you don't, I would say let's adopt like the 220. In the workshop this morning with Aria, with them being Norman based, theirs was more like 235 because Norman's going to be a little higher than some of price points within our MLS. But I think probably for the coaching group and all, 220 is a pretty good average. So if we're looking at 220,000, if someone would do this math for me, we want to come up with our average commission. So if you would multiply 220,000 by 2.8%. I believe it's right around 6,000-ish maybe.
6160.
6160. So our average commission, you can write that in, is 6160. And if you want to put a little side note out there, if you come back to this and go, how the heck did I get this number? You can put a little side note out there. It's just based on average, you know, MLS price of 220. If you want to put a little explanation out there. All right, so then we know, again, we're figuring out how long it's going to take us to cap. So within the brokerage, you're if you're in coaching, you're paying 35% into the right. But we're just looking at what determines when you're capping is the 30% that you're paying in as to the company dollar of the brokerage, not to coaching. So you can write in 30% on that line, do the math, multiply your average commission by 30%, and that's the amount out of each transaction on the average that you're paying in to the market center.
So are we writing on 30% or 70? 70 we keep in our pocket,
No.
30 we go to.
Now, this is that's going to the brokerage. So you're doing 160. Okay, this is your average commission. Yeah, 30% of this.
1848.
30% of my average commission.
Yes, that's correct.
I got 1848.
Okay, some are using different average price points, so.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I mean, if you know the number, use it. I mean, if you, and especially with this being a little low.
Yeah.
If that's gonna say you need to do more transactions. Okay, so we know what we're paying in per transaction on the average to the brokerage. So take 21,000 because that's your cap plus royalty, and divide it by what you're paying into your brokerage on the average. And that will tell you how many transactions 11.3 that it takes you to cap. So you are on the average paying this into the brokerage. So take 21,000 divided by 1848. And that's going to give you your answer on the next line of how many units to cap.
Sorry, I missed that.
No,
I was doing
you're fine.
another one, because right now, this year, my average price point is a lot higher.
Okay.
But I'm doing both. What was that?
So this is, you're gonna take 21,000 divided by
Okay.
what you're on the average you're paying in per closing, and that tells you how many closings you need. Everyone there? Got it? Okay. So the next piece is some you potentially heard it in your PC, in your coaching group. It comes from the locker room, and through just research and statistics and studying numbers, we can say that it takes on the average 50 conversations for one closing, not 50 to the same person. Okay, but just when you're out and about daily, I mean, having business conversations, when I'm having 50 conversations, it should be resulting in a piece of business. So work with me here on the math. you've got how many units it's going to take you to cap, right? Now, I want you to multiply that. So multiply the number of units you need to cap by 50. And that's going to tell you the total number of conversations. Now divide it by 25. I'll let you do the math and then I'll explain why the 25. So you're gonna take your number of units needed to cap times 50 divided by 25. And that's your answer in the next line. That's how many weeks it should take you to cap.
Oh.
You look at that and you go, that's not that many, right? So let me explain the 50 and the 25. So through that 50 conversations to one closing, the locker room also says 5 conversations a day, 5 days a week, that's the 25. So technically every 2 weeks, we should be contracting something if we're doing the 5-a-day conversations. Now, what's a conversation? It can be nurturing a relationship that's already there. It can be a conversation with someone new. It could be a vendor that you're nurturing a relationship with. So in the beginning, it's just get in the habit of conversations and logging them, like how many a day. And even if you're just nurturing a relationship, real estate's gonna come up. Like it's going to come up. You're not this commission breath agent that people are going to, dodge and run the other way. The conversations can be interactions on a phone call, a text, an email. It could be interacting through social media. It could be just as someone had mentioned in the last session, they write handwritten birthday cards as instead of sending them on Facebook, they write handwritten cards to everyone. I mean, those are all conversations, contacts, interactions, touches. You hear that in the Keller Williams world. Okay, so then you can look at how many weeks it's going to, how many weeks it should take you to cap, and you can set a date based on, do you want to start at the beginning of the year or what's your anniversary date? So give me some numbers. How many?
22.7 is what I got.
22.7. Have you capped previously?
I did this year.
Okay. How long did it take this year approximately?
9 months.
Okay.
9 months.
Okay. And that was and that says how many weeks?
22.7.
22. So that's like 3.5.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
So when it tapes, what I've found as a PC about the brand.
Close my eyes.
That first year, did you say something, Stacey?
No, I just understand now why I feel like I'm always talking about real estate.
Talking about real estate.
Yeah.
So what I found was typically whatever your business was in that first year, you would do it in 6 months the next year. And then you typically can even pull that down to like 3 months the next year. I mean, it's very easily done as you get into, that momentum. And then, there are people capping, realistically within, 1 or 2 months at times as well. So cap, and then you're on 100%, right? All right.
And the cap is your anniversary date, it's not a calendar year.
Correct. It's within Keller Williams, it's based on your anniversary date. And even you guys transferring to a different market center, it should, I don't know.
That's something that,
It's negotiated between the market centers. That's from your previous MCA. It's up to the market center whether or not they want to allow it.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to know for sure on that one, I started to say it transfers with your anniversary date transfers with you, and I do not want to see because I don't.
I think the international funds do, but what you pay to the specific market center, the company dollar does not. That's market center. It's their discretion, if I remember right.
That sounds accurate. Thank you for that. Okay, everyone in good space. Give me an aha, give me a light bulb moment or a takeaway from this first piece before we dive into some more numbers.
I didn't cap it in 22.7 weeks.
Well, you know, and I think what we find a lot when we're starting out, and sometimes we've even been in the business a while, it's just when you see it like this, hopefully it's a, wow, I can do this. This is doable. And I'm just having 5 conversations a day. Now, as we get to this next part, based on how much you desire to earn, your number of conversations could change a little. The 5 are gonna get you, the way the locker room teaches it, the 5 conversations are going to gross you 6 figures and potentially net you right there somewhere. If it's not right at the 100,000, it's the upper, kind of mid to upper 90s, somewhere right in there, based on your average price point and all. So, all right, let's keep going here to the next sheet. Yes.
I'm doing more than 5 a day, right? I have 100 touches a week. That's what I'm doing now. And the conversion is not what I want it to be.
Okay.
And so
Can I ask a clarifying question there?
yeah,
Who are the touches? Who are you?
my sphere, new pickups from open houses, people that are in the game. I mean, I'm not just pulling names out of the hat.
Okay, so they're not, it's not necessarily cold, like circle.
I'm not doing
prospecting.
any cold calls.
Okay.
I door knock.
Right.
Right. And I count that within 100. Like I have to touch 100 people.
Okay. Okay, so continue on though. You said, how do I change my conversion rate?
Well, it's just like, I want to do 5 a day. I'll do 5 a day for the rest of my life, Chuck, right? But it's like those 5 have to be really good, right? For the conversion, I mean, I get it. That's $1,250 a year. You do a 1 out of 50 conversion rate. At this, you make $100,000 a year, right? And so I get your numbers. It's just how do you get the right 5 every day?
That's a great question. So let's talk about that. I will say, because I've lived in the world of Keller Williams, and if we go back even to the Bold days, which are relaunching, it's in Bold, like that intensive 8 weeks, it's 20 contacts a day, 100 a week.
Right.
And I would say what I found, even in myself and others, is you almost get into a mode of making contacts for the sake of making contacts. And you're potentially, I'm not saying this is 100% with you, because only you're potentially not in the moment of that conversation and making it as deep a conversation like as it could be. Because we're a machine a little bit in our head thinking, I need 15 more and I can't let this one take up more than this space. So sometimes it begins with us and just being a little more present, and also just allowing yourself to quit working as hard with the activities, like trim that back and challenge yourself to be a little more present in the conversation. Again, I'm not blaming because I don't know. I just know what can happen. Sure.
The difference may be with our PC group with the 25 is our goal is it's 5 purposeful, meaningful conversations a day. Whether that conversation be 5 minutes or 35 minutes or 45 minutes, it's meaningful conversations. And like I said, the difference is going to be with Bold, that's 100 a day, and you're sending text messages and calling. Do you know anybody that wants to buy or sell real estate? Okay. You know anybody that wants to buy or sell? Okay. And you're barely getting the sentence out. And that's the difference is, again, not trashing Bold or anything like that, or trashing the 100 that your goal is or whatever. It's just that the difference in the counting in ours is meaningful conversations.
So can I go a little deeper with you? So how long have you been doing the 100 a week? The majority of your
No,
time?
no, I didn't start doing this until May.
Okay. June, July, August, September, 5 months, so to speak. Have you seen growth since you have been more
My
disciplined?
data bank has grown significantly.
Okay. Okay, so when you say your data bank, is that adding people that you didn't know previously, or you're reconnecting?
Adding people that I didn't know.
Okay, that's your answer right there. It's going to take a little more time. Keep doing what you're doing. It just takes time for that relationship to come along. But, I mean, it does.
I would ask.
What'd you say, Stacey?
I was just gonna say, something I've learned in my short career here is there's a big difference between just growing a database versus finally working through it and really nurturing that database. So what Chuck was saying was, don't grow your database just for the sake of growing the database. You need to have some systems in place in order to continually touch those people and make sure that you have some mind share going on with them now too.
So you start layering in the different touches now, and
Right.
you start growing that relationship more. It's just like when, well, we were talking about recruiting agents, and even if you were to go out and start like geographic farming, like farming a neighborhood, you know, like those that have done it, and the advice there is have at least a year's budget that you can do this, and don't expect a result for 6 months. Well, it's that 6, 7, 8 impressions until they get like to know you. In the Keller Williams world, I don't know, is there still an 8x8? Like there's a 12 touch, the 30 something, and then is there still an 8x8?
Not really.
Okay, there used to be where you hit them.
Is a command. There's an 8x8 in command.
Okay, so that's something that goes out like weekly to build that quicker impression. So with this, all this being said is now that you're building it, and we're gonna get into size of database here in a second to support your business. As you're building it, start categorizing it and defining how do I want to communicate with these groups. Who are my top 25, my top 50 that I have the strongest relationship with, that I can go to coffee or lunch once a week with one person. And over the course of a year, maybe I go to lunch with them 2 times. But who are those that I can really pour into? Then who are the ones that I need to somewhat put on autopilot with command, where they're receiving something monthly, and then through, if you've heard through Keller Williams training, where you call or have a direct contact 4 times a year with each person, like that happening with those. So you're growing it. Can I ask how many you're up to?
Almost 500.
Okay. Okay. So you're getting there, and that's a good number, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. Don't get frustrated. Like keep doing what you're doing. You may be at a point where you can back off on the growing it just a little and grow the relationships of those that are in there. And there's also in our world, there just seems to be this miraculous 3rd year that happens where everything just starts happening like at a higher level. And I know they're like, oh, look at now. I can't wait for the 3rd year, you know. But it's that second, a little into the second and that 3rd where it's just the momentum seems to take over. So let's keep working here because you're in a good place. Don't and then I'll explain why. All right. Does everyone have a business planning and goal setting sheet, that sheet in your packet? Okay, so we already know some of the first numbers. You're just going to put pieces at the top that we've already actually figured from the page before. So we know you determine what the average sales price is that you're basing your goals on. That could have been from the previous page. I offered you the 220 because that was what MLS's average is right now. You know what your average commission based on 2.8% is because you've already done that math on the page before, right? Okay. Monthly office fees, 56, what you said?
5276.
Okay, 5276. I asked.
Bit of an odd number.
I asked.
What is it?
5276.
Yeah,
Not
monthly,
counting whatever if you're not counting your booth rents.
yeah, so your office fees times 12, you can put that number in there. That's funny, I reached out to Brian, he's very exact. And I said, isn't the Mullinex office bill around 50 to 55? And he's like 5276. I'm like, all right. I said that in fun. We know our cap for the brokerage is go ahead and put the 21,000. It's the 18 plus the 3. And there's not like a transaction fee that the brokerage charges you. Now, if you have a transaction coordinator that you're outsourcing and paying and not married to, if you can come back and fill in this space because we have to know how many transactions your goal is going to be before we can come up with what that expense possibly is going to be for you. So these are just some fill in the blanks because we're going to use them as we come down the list here. All right, everyone ready to go now? What's your desired net income? So this is your 40% that you're taking home. Remember how when I split up that commission check between taxes, operating expenses of real estate and your 40%? This is that 40% that you're going to take home. What's that number? A lot of times, everyone loves that good 6-figure 100,000. And that's okay. Think about it. Now this will be after taxes because we're going to add taxes into this. We're going to grow this number to the larger number you need to earn. So this is your true take home. Brokerage has already been paid. Real estate expenses have already been paid. Taxes have already been paid. This is your take home. Okay. Cost of sale paid to the brokerage. Or some you can put in before you write, you can, I would just put your 21,000 here and the monthly office fee will come into play with your operating expenses. So let's just put your 21,000 here. Okay, now you're gonna need your calculator. Operating expenses. You want to take your net income, that the take home pay, you want to take that divided by 30%. You're going to get a large number, subtract back out your desired net income. So if I don't know, I'm just going to this math one didn't work, but let's say if my net income was 100, I did 100,000 divided by 30%, and it was 140,000. 40,000 would be my operating expenses that I would be working with. I took my 100,000 back out. Now, if that number feels too big for you, like you're like, I've never spent that much on real estate expenses. You can play with it. If you want to take it down to about 20, I wouldn't go below the 20%. And the way you would do the math on the 20% is your desired net income divided by 80%. And that will give, and then you subtract back out the desired net income, and that'll give you your operating expenses. There are going to be times that spending money will benefit you. Now, again, this is that monthly office bill, it's the dues, it's photography, it's signs, it's the, hey, can you go show a property for me? I'm coming back from vacation, I'll shoot you $100. I mean, it's all of those operating expenses. They add up. You will also find the majority, and I'm not here giving financial or accounting advice, Yet the majority, if not all, of those operating expenses should have some deduction benefits to you as well on your taxes. Okay, so we got that line, where we can move on down to taxes. Okay, on the tax line then, if you use 30% in your operating expenses, it's gonna be the same thing on your tax line. But you would take your net income divided by 70%. And then subtract back out your net income, and that gives you your 30% for taxes. So those of you that may be a little more math oriented, let me explain to you why I'm doing the math this way. Let's say your desired net income is 100,000. If I say 100,000 times 30%, it's only giving me the 30% of the 100. It's not giving me the 30% of the gross commission. So that's why we're flipping it. Because we're taxed on our gross commission. Okay, no one in the room is on a team, so we don't have anything that goes in that line. So you are going to now add your desired net income, your cost of sale to the brokerage, your operating expenses, and your taxes, and this gives you the gross commission you need to earn. Don't be a big number, don't freak out, don't start thinking, oh my gosh, I set my goal too high. We're gonna chunk it back down. Are we all there?
So when you're doing taxes, you're doing the net times 30.
No,
and the
this,
net times 70.
this divided by 70.
Divided by 70.
Yeah. And then we subtract back out your 45,000. And that'll tell you your tax amount.
And so that's the reason that the 30% taxes represents, like my 42,000 there represents 30% of the 188.
Yes,
That's great.
yes, yeah. Otherwise, we'd be coming up short.
30% of 100,000.
Right. Okay, so we're all there, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now let's chunk this back down, make it doable. I feel like we're really heavy. Okay, so,
Speaking of air, before we get too far, are y'all hot? I'm comfortable, but I realize that y'all may not be.
I'm okay.
Okay. I won't touch that.
Okay. All right, so we have the gross commission generated, right? And you know from up at the top, you wrote in what your average commission is, right? So take your gross commission, divide it by your average commission, and that will tell you how many units you need to close to meet your goal.
Say that again, Chuck.
Okay, sure. So take your the big number, yeah, the GCI, and you just figure, take your gross commission, divide it by your average
Sales price?
no. What is this?
Volume?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna divide it by that.
Got it.
Wait, what's that?
You're taking your gross commission. Up at the top of the page, we just wrote in to write it from the other page.
Oh, sure.
We, your average commission.
Yes.
Okay, so take your gross commission, divide it by your average commission, and that'll give you the total number of units you need to close.
Oh, Lord, help me. Where did you get gross commission then? Because I thought I was mistaking gross commission to average commission.
Okay, so there in the middle, you see the line where the gross commission earned, or gross commission generated?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Got it. I'm with you.
You're welcome.
Should that be the same as the team adjusted?
Well, nothing's gonna go in the team adjustment line because you're not on a team. I'm sorry, we skipped past that one. So no one's on the team. Okay. Yeah, so take, yeah, that divided by 6160. And that'll give you, okay,
40 units.
hey, pretty close. Everyone have their unit number. Yes, okay. What's your gross commission? Okay, cool. All right, so now we know our total number of units, we're gonna go back to the conversations so that we can take that conversation concept and apply it to your actual goal, okay? So take the total number of units needed to close to meet your goal, multiply that by 50, because we know it takes up to 50 conversations for a closing. Now, as you build, or I guess sharpen your conversion ratio, there are those out there that it may take them 35, 40, not 50 conversations for a transaction. So 50 is a good kind of beginning stages. So you're gonna get a big number because this is the total number of conversations. I want you to divide that number though by 48 because there are going to be 48 work weeks. Okay, I'm gonna let you write that answer down and I'll explain why. So you did your total closed units needed times 50 divided by 48. And I'm giving you 2 weeks vacation, and then with just holiday happenings, those will easily add up to 2 weeks. And when I say weeks in the locker room, 5 days a week, so 10 days. And so if you think about, like, we have Thanksgiving coming up, and how many of us tend to just kind of take it easy on Black Friday? Or, you're with family. And so those life events, kiddos events, whatever may come up can consume 2 weeks easily. So that's why we take those 4 weeks out. Now, divide that's how many conversations a week. Divide it by 5, because there's 5 days in a week. And that's gonna tell you how many conversations a day. What's your number? 4. Wow. Okay.
It better be the right 4 people.
Right. I thought yours, what's your?
8.3.
Oh, yeah,
My number's not that high.
yeah, this. Number's higher.
Well, see, I've had trouble setting goals because I was talking to my kids on the vacation last week and I thought, I've never made over $44,000 in a year. And I said, so $100,000 would be more than double. I said, I would be happy with that. So I put 150, but it's like, that's a stretch for me.
Love it. Love that you're raising that, and Keller Williams will come back here, termed as your financial thermostat. We all kind of have that limit that we can't perceive going beyond, or sometimes we're not worthy of going beyond, or we just don't have the know-how, or gosh, I know what I would do with that. So love it. Okay, so this is going to be a fun part here. I want you to take, this isn't based on any of the math leading up to this. This is just a line by itself. It says average commission. So take your average commission. You all have it up at the top toward the top of your page. So take your average commission and divide it by 50. And this is how much every conversation you're having is worth to you.
Oh.
Worth your efforts. And you're putting that, like when you have that conversation, it's like putting that money in a savings account, because there is going to be a payoff day as one of those conversations say yes. But it's a great motivator of every time I'm having a conversation, or I'm sending that text, or I'm sending that handwritten note, I'm interacting on social media, I just earned $150 or whatever your number might be. So it can be a motivator. I've even heard of some agents getting like play money, like Monopoly money or something, and if you're consistently sitting at the same place to do your lead generation, every time you make that contact, you move $100, like over into the pot, you can see it growing. We're all motivated by different things, different visuals, so, find what works for you. I would highly encourage that you track it. We think naturally that we're having 5 conversations a day. And when you really track it, there are gonna be those times, yeah, we had a conversation, but it wasn't, it never went into real estate, or it was with a handyman, or it was with, now, if you're having a conversation with a vendor as part of your vendor list, that's different. But when you're just taking care of business, that's not a conversation. Okay. I had not heard this concept until one of the sessions in the locker room. We're gonna figure out the bottom. So, has everyone heard about seasonality in the business? You believe it?
Yes.
To a certain extent, right?
Did the seasons affect the business?
So, is there always someone buying and selling?
Yes.
Okay. Remember that. Now, do the levels of buying and selling potentially change throughout the year because of
Weather.
multiple things? Yeah, right. So what I want you to look at here on the bottom, and this is the theory behind this. If I have a goal of, let me find a number that works into 12. Let's say I have a goal to close 36 transactions. That's what's come up on the number of transactions to make my my income goal. If I just go 36 divided by 12, I need to have 3 closings a month. What happens in January when it's dead of winter and I only have 1? What happens to me mentally? Possibly. Some people it doesn't affect, and we're all wired a little different. Yeah, could I feel defeated?
Yes.
Gosh, month 1, I'm already 2 behind. Ugh, screw it. I give up. So we're gonna map out how your closings should happen per quarter. Okay, so I want you to take your total number of units you need to close, and I want you to multiply that by 17.5%. So whatever your number of units to close to meet your goal, multiply it by 17.5%. And that's going to be your goal of closed units for quarter 1, that's gonna be the first line, and fourth quarter, that's gonna be the bottom line. Now, from there, if you choose, you can take that and divide it by 3, because there's 3 months in a quarter. So yours would roughly be 1 closing a month in January, February, March, October, November, December. Does that make sense? Okay. You're looking at me funny.
No, I'm good.
You got it? Okay. Now, whatever's left over, that's what has to close combined in quarter 2 and 3. It's not double it. It's just, if your middle number's 20, you've got 6 months in the middle there to make that 20 happen. It's just that your goals increase from March to the end of September, and they start and end at lower levels that are more conducive to the market potentially. Makes sense.
It's interesting to me to do this. I just ran through the numbers real quick. Where for mine, what I was doing was 22 contracts a year. It's basically 1 a month for the first quarter and the fourth quarter, and then 2.5 a month for the other 6 months. That's not that hard.
Right. Okay. I'll let all of you kind of wrap up there and finish working through your thought process. Okay. Breathe, exhale, blow it out, shake it off. Numbers, right? I do feel like, though, this is a little more simplified than what we've gone through, the process we've worked through in the past. And I did my best to connect the dots. Now, we're gonna go on into the database part of it, but I did my best to connect the dots from just the achievement of capping to taking it to your goal, centering it around the number of conversations to make it doable. Okay. So give me a couple of thoughts.
It seems attainable.
Seems attainable.
Mhm.
Okay. What do you have control over in achieving this?
Everything. The conversations.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all you can control is your conversation and the effectiveness of your conversation, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm in my second year of real estate, and I've of course been part of Keller Williams before this too, and just seen the stuff and not had anything, you know, I wasn't a realtor at the time, but I'm amazed at at kind of the accuracy of what I'm seeing. So I know that you're saying that it's simplified and it's boiled down, but it really is. I mean, I have numbers from this year that I can utilize, and I'm constantly working to improve on them. So I'm, you know, picking up speed, but I'm loving how accurate this really is. The projection is what I'm seeing for the projection of when I'm supposed to cap really is when I am projecting to cap. So it's really kind of cool to see this and put it into action and understand that it's real. Thank you.
I love it. Thank you for that validation there. You know, we always like to know that that it's working and that we're
Yeah.
we're as
I'm like,
accurate as
it's like I
possible.
put the year on it so I can compare it, you know, do it again next year and see how it's improving. So I'm loving it.
Okay, so do you hear out of, she didn't say directly, but what did you hear out of Stacy's comment around how's she going to look at this next year? Like, what's she doing along the way? I might have really just asked that. So tracking her numbers, she's looking at her business, right? And that's one of the things that's most difficult in our world sometimes, or we're intimidated by it. But there's, you know, a line out there that numbers tell a story, and it may be a favorable story, and it may not. Yet, even when it's not, it still tells us a story of what we need to do or how we can be, you know, more effective. That's just like when I was coaching agents, and I guess I still do to some extent. But like when I was in Brian's world, and I had an agent come in and they're like, I just, open houses don't work. They're not working for me. Okay, let's talk through the process. When are you, you know, securing your open house? Where is it? How are you marketing it? Did you get people in the door? Yeah, I got people in the door. Okay, great. Then what were your conversations you were having with people? Were you able to have conversations? Did they open up? And yeah, they did. They're just ghosting me now that I'm following up. Okay, right there. That gives us a place to zero in on and change the conversation we're having, or maybe the timeliness of our follow-up, or, you know, I mean, it allows you to dive into a little spot. Just like the conversation we were having of the 100 conversations or contacts a week. Great, who are they? Because not all conversations are the same. I mean, a lot of these sound like newer relationships, so it takes a little nurturing. They need to hear from you a few times before maybe they start responding. So don't be scared of tracking your numbers and your activities. It just, it leads to great discussion and you growing and becoming, you know, better. So when Brian's asking you to log into the core dashboard and track your numbers, that's why. I mean, it is. It's just, you know, knowing, like today, knowing that potentially 50 conversations lead to a transaction. Well, if you can go, oh, well, this month, I've only had 20 total. Okay, well, you're 30 conversations away from a transaction. Go get it, you know, like, you can have it by the end of this month if you continue at the same pace. I mean, it's all, it's not out of judgment or shaming, or it's just, what are your activities to support the outcome? So, all right. Anyone need a break?
Yes.
Okay, let's do like a 10. How are we doing on time? I know there's.
Here's a clock to go.
Okay, so we'll be good. Oh, there's a clock right there.
That clock's wrong.
Okay, so let's do like 5 to 7-ish, you know, get a drink of water, use the restroom, and we'll pick back up with database.
Enough cups.
Only have two.
I
don't know whose that is.
Yours, Brian.
Huh?
Thought one of those was yours.
Someone left that one here and we thought it was yours. He's the-
Yeah, I thought it was yours earlier.
And Brian loves
Could
our
be.
coffee. I am going to drink coffee.
Wait, fresh coffee.
I don't like your coffee.
You're cut off, then.
I
No coffee for you.
love a little margarita
Coffee
thing.
is
Sorry.
So I've really struggled with, I mean, since I moved, actually, I was kind of on a team over there. I don't know if you know Greg Warren.
Uh-huh.
I was in his office and I talked to people too long, in his opinion. And he says, you're wasting time on these people. But for me, it's building a rapport. And it's like, I left over there and came over here, and it's like, in 5 weeks, I had 5 under contract. And it's like, it just kind of comes together, and I haven't done lead gen since I've been here. It's just word of mouth, talking to people, somebody at the gas station, the guy comes to buy my lawnmower, I gave him a card, you know, he's, you know, I'm making contacts like that, not specifically doing lead gen, which we were saying, I were in Washington, and I got my license out there at the end of 17, and I think I only, this is my database, by the way. So I had like 4 deals in 18, and then I think I just got my 12th deal closed at the end of 19, and then we moved here in 20. And so I didn't cap in the 2 years that I was out there. And so it's like I chase squirrels. And I'm guilty of it. I'm trying to reel it in and then get focused on doing some lead gen. And I've just been struggling with it. So,
Well, you know, you can still chase squirrels. I mean, all of us have a personality. All of us have a style of conversation or connecting that's us, you know. You don't have to, a lot of times when you are that squirrel chaser in a sense, as you termed it, when we speak of time blocking, you start feeling like possibly restricted. You might welcome it, others are like, oh my gosh, that's just so structured.
that's me. It's like, it's almost too much structure.
Start like structure 2 hours of your day and just see that I have the rest of the day to chase squirrels. I only have to be disciplined 2 hours of the day. Some though would say, well, can I do an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon? You can, it's just once we get into a method and we're building some momentum and we're having the conversations, it's easier to wrap up that 2 hours than to start again, you know, like.
Get it done, get it out of the way.
Right. But like you hit the nail on the head when you can adapt, because you're lead generating when you're having the conversations.
Right.
It's just a different
Different
way than Greg saying, come in, sit at this desk and let's lead generate. Also, those are typically, a lot of those can be very cold leads. And who were you calling? Were they inquiries on listings or?
I was doing cold calling, you know, when I was with him, he had subscribed to Mojo.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's like one of my best weeks, I called 700 people. And it was usually between 300 and 500. And really, none of them panned out. The ones, I had 2 leads from over there. One of them, I got 1 call from the front desk. I just happened to be in the rotation and close on it. They were, you know, they were from out of state. And the other one, I sold him a house. He paid cash for a couple of weeks back, and we've got his house under contract. But none of those other leads really panned out. So,
Because there's not a relationship there. And you were, as best you could, looking to build rapport or build that relationship. And then you have someone else in your ear, and I'm like, there's no judgment or criticizing here. It's someone else in your ear saying, you're taking too much time, get on to the next. Well, I may say this even, I use this example a lot, especially as we get into database. And it goes back to the depth of the conversation too, is that I could go out to Riverwind or Newcastle and just plug, something's gonna pay. If I go through there as fast as I can, I'll plug something to everyone, yeah, something's gonna pay. Yeah, working smarter, not harder. If I, was more strategic about who I'm gonna talk to, or if I took more time to build that relationship or start building one, there potentially is a bigger payoff and it's not as time consuming. When you can make 5 to 10 contacts a day, 50 a week versus 600. Oh my gosh, slip my wrist. You sit there and have to dial that. The dialer's dialing, but still, you're becoming, to some that's okay, because and we'll talk about some personality types, because it can very much be a machine. And that's okay. And someone like you that loves to nurture it and have a little more meaningful conversation, that's okay too. Because if that's what works for you, and if you know that, do that, because that's where you feel best.
well,
You're losing yourself.
in 2019, our last year in Washington, I did bold. And in the 8 weeks, I did 3 bold 100s. But it's just like, it was a task. I accomplished the task. I didn't nurture anything out of that.
Right.
I get more out of,
Like this.
nurturing a relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
580-224-1077.
All right.
Stacy's sitting there like,
Stacy, can you hear me?
I hear my number being given out.
Hey, Stacy, this is Tom Orr. I'm gonna text you something, okay?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I thought that sounded familiar.
So I took your numbers directly from last year's plan, and it helped me like plug right into CTE. And then that shows you the visuals. Have you used CTE before? So it like breaks down everything from like goals to the contacts like this. You can even put, whatever you're doing for Legion, database, everything in it. It just was really good to just plug in and go.
CTE is great. It's basically a very, very in-depth spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's online, but it's an Excel spreadsheet. It's really what it is.
Okay.
And
It's not as advanced as command, and I think that's where I lie, is command, like, is sometimes over my head.
oh God. And I think just the opposite.
Yeah.
I think command is way easier than CTE, because I looked at CTE and I'm like, man, there's like 12 tabs and 80 lines per tab. I don't know what the hell's
Right,
going
I
on.
love
When you put
spreadsheets, and that
everything
thing's like,
in a spreadsheet, it like automatically drops it in every page.
Right. That's helpful, but still, CTE is very overwhelming to me,
Yeah,
because I've looked at it and I was like, I'm not doing all
I
this.
looked at it before and I was like, whoa, but then when I plugged your plan in last year into it, it helped me follow it and it helped me keep up with spending, where I'm at.
All right, let's dive into this next piece, and then we'll get into actually drafting the plan, and I'm gonna have to, I'll log in so I can show you an example. So database, you guys in the Keller Williams world, you hear talk about your database, your sphere of influence, your contacts, regularly. That's not so in a lot of brokerages. And we know that you, depending on how effective and how many touches your communication is with your database, your results are reflective of that. Gosh, I was struggling how to say that. I hit a wall there for a second. Okay, so at the top line, write down your number of transactions again that you are desiring to close. Your number of transactions to meet your goal. You're gonna write that on the top line. If you are just in the beginning stages of command, and maybe all you have going right now with those that are in command, we're going to use the 5%. If you were had been everyone on a plan and marketing to them, plus you were doing the quarterly calls, and we would raise this, we'd allow it to grow up to a 10% return. Yeah, I think for safety's sake, let's all start with a 5% here. So take your transactions and divide by 5%. And this should tell you how many contacts you need in your database to achieve your goal.
I'm sorry, Chuck, I checked out for
Sure.
at the wrong time. What am I doing?
No problem. So you're on the next page, you're gonna take your transactions to meet your goal, so your desired closed transactions, and divide that by 5%. And that should give you a number of contacts that your database should reflect.
Okay.
So give me some numbers.
Which one?
How many in your database?
I need 520.
Okay.
I have about
Well, look at you, just already working ahead there.
100.
Okay, so 312, 520.
400.
Okay, so see, you're already, you said around 500.
Almost.
So now I would say your focus is which of those are going to be responsive to me to allow me to grow the relationship. And then there is some room there to discard some if they just are not responsive, or put them on once a month email and see if something comes of it. But pick your focus, like you would want your focus to be on 400, not anything more.
Yes. Right, and our, like, say it's 400, so it's 100 a week, right? That's where I've gotten my 100 touches a week, and I'm touching everybody once a month.
Oh, well, okay, but you're touching,
It might be text or email.
okay, so the way to vary that up and where I think where you want to start, you guys should have everyone in command on a monthly email. Okay, now that's a passive way, that's not a direct conversation or a direct way of communicating. The other layered in piece is your database, one direct contact, so call, text, a direct message through social media, possibly a quarter, not a month. Okay, so you start there, and then you can start layering in other touches. But if you start with a monthly email through command, and then one call a quarter. I say call, it can be text, something direct. If you look in the Keller Williams world, if you search, you just go online and search this and it'll pop up. It's called Never Ending Referrals. And I know when they revamped Bold right before COVID, it was part of bold. Do you remember when they talked about 2 letters of the alphabet every week, and it was a popular letter and a not popular letter, and like it kept you from prejudging your cherry picking. But you would go through your contacts and use those 2 letters every week, and that was your nurturing call. So really, you have a message, and it's gonna get so boring to you. It's a 3-month message, but it's the first time they're hearing it. So centered around things that are happening. If you're, if it's like right now, what's coming up? I mean, holidays, New Year, or maybe at the turn of the year, it's a Happy New Year, and just out of curiosity, because I want to make sure I'm here for those that are my relationships. Do you foresee having a real estate need in the coming year? Then that gets you into kind of a follow-up plan. Maybe springtime, it centers around, is there any vendor, like a handyman? Do you need those gutters cleaned out? Is there any home maintenance, spring cleaning that I can connect you with? I mean, you come up with these themes for that 3 months, and that's what the conversation you're having with everyone. You may have heard some of this before. I know Brian has dove into some of that as well. So we have the number needed in the database. The next line is what number do you currently have in your database? And then you're able to subtract that and see what the gap is, if there is a gap. Meaning a need, like, do you still need more? Do you need to grow the database? Now, the final piece of math there is you're going to take the gap, the growth that's still needed. You're going to take the gap and you're going to divide that by 120 days. Let me tell you my thought behind this. If I'm looking to achieve my goal in 2022, I better get my database grown by mid-year so that all of them have the chance to contribute to my 2022 goal. If I spread those contacts to add to my database or grow my database by over the whole year, and I'm entering some of them in 2022 of December, they potentially don't get to contribute to my goal. So it's a sooner than later type thing. It's getting them in there in the first 6 months. So how much do we need to grow our database?
A lot.
A lot? 3.5 a day?
Yeah, but a day.
Okay, so 3.5 a day. What else are you doing every day? I mean, in real estate, lead gen.
Transactions, yes,
How many conversations a day?
5,
Okay. Could some of those 5 not be in your database?
yes.
Okay. So that becomes logging the information. Could some of the 5 be updated information or completing the information you need in your database? Okay. And then after having a great just check-in and getting that needed information, how about a handwritten note the next day saying it was great connecting with you, and that's one of your 5. Do you see how it
Yeah.
It's not this item, this item. I mean, they all can mesh.
Right.
And they all can impact one another.
So have command of when you're making your phone calls or sending your text messages.
That's the goal here. Yes.
And if it's easier for you to operate off of a spreadsheet for a time period, where you can at a glance see the columns of information and see what you're missing, great, because then you can import that later into Command and get it on the smart plans and working for you. I always say, when you put the contacts in Command, if you're missing something, you do have to have it opened and looking, because it's hidden. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So, do what works for you. But 3 a day added.
Do I need to stand over your shoulder?
Definitely not.
9:30?
I feel like I would make no phone calls if you did that.
So, to achieve this, I mean, I would, and this is just kind of a best practice. Another piece, this just popped in my mind. I don't want to lose the thought. make sure that whoever is in command, you're connected. If you are on social media, some people choose not to be. If you are, make sure you're connected with them on social media. That is the easiest way to have interactions day in and day out. Now, you can't just be that voyeur and that one that just likes. You've got to boost engagement by either commenting, or if you see them needing something, direct message them. Even if it's just direct messaging about, you just saw that they went on vacation and you want to ask something about that trip or that destination. But social media can be very easy and an easy interaction. Now, some shy away from social media or choose just not to engage with it because they feel like it's a distraction, or they don't like other things they're seeing on there. Well, if you don't like the other things you're seeing, like unfollow, unfriend them. If you feel like you're a little tapped out on social media as far as having too many contacts, friends, whatever, depending on the platform you're on, a great way to kind of top grade and weed out people. Don't just take 3 days, like say you're gonna do it over 3 days. I mean, that disrupts everything else in your world. As birthdays pop up, look through your birthday list every day. And do I want to continue another year with this person? Do I even know this person? Like, am I connected to this person in any sort of way? And like weed them out that way. And then when you're saying happy birthday to the others, that's a contact potentially that day as well. A way you can even make it more personal. I do this. I mean, there's at least 1 or 2 a day out of the ones that are birthdays. Those people I have more of a relationship with. Yes, I'll say happy birthday in social media. I'll also pick up my phone and send, like a happy birthday message as well. Because they're gonna notice that more than when you're in the list of 300 that said happy birthday. Or come up with a little image you like, something that sets you apart, like a little GIF of a happy birthday GIF that you can post in there rather than just saying happy birthday typed out. Hey,
I use the emojis.
I like that. Yeah.
I do a little for people that I know and love. I do the little video snippet with me with the unicorn and say, hey, thinking of you today. Anyway, yeah. Mine's not for everybody, but it's definitely, I get a lot of engagement from that.
Well, I'm gonna be looking for that in March, Stacy. So, okay. The next page, you guys have definitely, you've heard this in your brokerage or your market center, because I know this market center talks a lot about DISC and the assessment and who are you, how do you identify that in clients, how do you adapt to them to win, and because they're never gonna adapt to us typically, like we have to merge with them. This breaks down in the locker room, you hear we present this in a lot of different ways, business generating or lead generating that matches your personality style. And so the dominance, there at the top, that's a D. That's the driven, dominant, direct. Those are activities that potentially a D is attracted to. They're a little less relationship based. They're more task oriented, and they're typically at a faster pace. The I influencer are the I's. The I's are typically, they're very relationship, yet they are fast paced, like a D also. They're social, bigger events, activities where they're seen. They don't mind being in front of people. I can say that because like I'm an IMD, so I get it. And then as you come down the chart, this is where I feel like the S's and the C's start prejudging themselves and comparing. And they see the D's and I's out there. Why? Because they put themselves out there. The D's and I's are there to be seen. That's what they enjoy doing. And then we start comparing ourselves to them as an S or C, saying, oh, real estate's not for me. My personality type isn't a good fit in real estate. So I'm here to say, there is room for everyone and everyone's strengths. And the idea is know what your strengths are and business generate and live in those strengths, because that's where you're at your happiest. So like the S's, I'm skipping over to the lower left, the S's are very steady, at the end they're systematic. They're still relationship based, yet they're in smaller groups or with people they know. S's are glue. S's are the glue on teams. S's are very nurturing typically. The relationship's important to them, so they're good in a workshop, like a first-time buyer type counseling session or even a small workshop. There's typically smaller groups with those S's. There's a whole line or column there of different activities. The S's definitely get into like community events, volunteering. They like to have a purpose there. You know, they don't leave people out. Then you have your C's, the compliance, correct type. And the C's typically they're not going to put themselves out there socially as much. Yet, you know, the handwritten cards, even open houses, a C is okay with because it's typically a smaller controlled group of people coming through. It's one every now and then. It's not overwhelming socially to that C. But I'd like to point this out because I know you guys have had conversations around this, around the disc, and there may be more coming up. I don't know. I see pop-ups on the Facebook group. And I know it's talked a lot about in your world here. And I just encourage you to come back to this page and find what are 2, 3 at the most. I would really ask you to focus on 2, especially as a newer agent. Where are 2 areas you could really focus that's in your wheelhouse, in your strengths, in what you enjoy that you can execute. Those S's and I's are not going to be the ones calling for self-owners and expires.
You are absolutely correct.
Okay, right? I's don't like rejection at all. You know, the C's, they're not as emotional. They're kind of the numbers people. They can take it or leave it. The D's, they're just on to the next dialer or the next number they're dialing. You know, so this is pretty insightful to kind of to look through and really, even if you don't know how to execute it, and if you think, what is this or how can I go about it? Lean into your leadership here. Lean into Brian, Stephanie, like let them help you with the execution part of it if it catches your attention.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So on the last disc that I spoke, there was a D and a C, which to me those look like complete opposites because you have fast paced and then you have slow to like you're.
You have a balance.
And I notice in my personality, some days I'm like, great, we got this done. The next day I'm like, what back look at that? How would you set that up to where both of your personalities come out, or maybe when you know you're having more of a C day than D day, you make it work?
Okay. So we can adapt to any of the 4 quadrants. It's just that if it's not,
Like my other 2 are low, they were like 15%.
you can adapt for an hour and then you gotta get back to what you were. Just don't fill a complete day.
Mhm.
I mean, even a half day with what you don't enjoy. Now, there's a difference in when it's not your strength versus I don't have the confidence because I don't have the knowledge. Like we can learn it and we build that confidence. That's, you know, then you can go do it. Yeah, if it's just an activity that is just, you might as well like, you know, go charm snakes or something. In my world, like, you can't stand snakes, you know, like I'm not gonna do it. And so to that though, maybe choose an item from the C and the D so that where you're leaning that day. Also, at times, we can be different at home in our home life and running a household and like with family and all than at work. So lean into more of what you are in your review time at work versus, you know, and it's okay. There is more alignment in the C's and D's than you realize. D's are definitely a little more fast paced. Get it done. The C's are going to take time to research and be a little more analytical with that. So all that being said, still marry the two. Maybe have a couple of ideas so that you can kind of toggle back and forth of what you feel like that day. All right. So that's one to kind of come back to, work with Brian on that, come up with some ideas, to plan, and to execute that. This last little piece, I don't want to confuse you because I know in my coaching sessions with Brian, you guys are working with what's called a GPS or a 135 in the Keller Williams world. And this last page looks very similar to it. Let me explain the difference, and then ultimately you can decide which one you would like to use. I'm probably going to say stick with the group direction. In the Locker Room University, if you look up the agent action plan, there's like a, I don't know, 5 to 7 minute video and an example of this already filled out. It's a little different than a 135 in this way. So let me kind of talk you through the path we've been through today in reference to this. So you would have your big goal at the top. And that could be your units, that could be, do you have this one? One more page. There you go.
Thank you.
It's gonna be it could be your units, it could be your dollar amount, whatever you relate to. That's your big goal. And then when you look at the 3 columns, it's 3 executions. And that's what I mean by that. Okay, there are relationships in our world. We talked about database that we're building, that's there, or that we're going to continue building. So what am I going to do with the relationships in my world? So first column is the R. What am I going to do with the relationships in my world? What's going to be my strategy over 2022 with the relationships? Does something involve phone/text? We talked about conversations. Does something involve email? We talked about commands. Does something involve face-to-face? Client event, or am I seeing something in my database at different functions, like, you know, Little League or church, or is there something there that I can make sure I'm a part of so they're seeing me face to face? Am I going to choose to do something through direct mail? Am I mailing to my whole database? Am I mailing to just like, am I just mailing birthday cards, home anniversary cards? Like is there any direct mail going on? And then what does my social media posts and messages look like? Is there some intentionality with that? That's all nurturing like those relationships. Opportunity is, where are buyers and sellers that I need to be? So let's say, and I'm getting a little creative here, but let's say it was strategies around open houses. I mean, they're still possible. Please don't get into that mindset that they're not. They are. You might have to do them virtually. You might have to launch a listing on a Saturday so that you can have an open house on Sunday. There's still some ways, but using open houses, then your steps below that could be door knocking a certain amount of doors in the neighborhood to invite. It could be some type of promoting through my database. It could be using circle prospecting. Circle prospecting, guys, is when you have a membership to a software entity, so to speak, and I can put in, you know, like 123 Main Street, and I can tell it I want the 50 or 100 or 150 closest people to that address. is not 100% accurate, but there is some accuracy there. But like, you know, with my open houses and my circle prospecting, since we're going into like in the colder months when I can't door knock, that it just becomes the to-dos that you're going to do to ensure that the open houses are executed at a higher level so that that contributes to your big goal. The investment column is what am I not doing that or it's kind of like the opportunity to square buyers and sellers naturally. And then the investment is where can I either spend money or spend time to generate buyers and sellers. That's like the investment. So, you know, maybe my investment that at the top is I'm going to attend 2 networking events a month. Okay, then how am I going to make that happen? That becomes my 5 items under. Maybe I need to become a member of a certain group. Maybe I need to, you know, do block this time on my schedule for this event. I mean, it just become the 5 up to 5. It doesn't have to be 5. Just become what you're going to do to make that upper piece happen that contributes to your goal. So it's like a 135 or a GPS. It's just a little more defined in what the item is or where it exists, I guess, in the world. Is it a relationship? Is it where buyers and sellers already are? And or is it where you need to invest time or money to generate buyers and sellers? There's a whole example already filled out. Again, it's that agent action plan, and you can look through the video list and it will let you go down to the ROI is what this is called, and you can see one completed. Again, I don't want to confuse you. You know, I wanted there to be a tool you relate with that you can have a conversation with Brian or Stephanie or whoever you're having a one-on-one with. Right. And this is the plan part. I mean, you kind of somewhat of a plan centered around how many conversations and where your database needs to be. This becomes the true plan for the year. I said we were going to work on filling it out. It's already 3:30 and everyone's a little lopsided and brain dead. So I definitely would just say, you know, choose the GPS or this, and then work with Brian on coming up with the pieces of it. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you feel like you know more than you did at 1:29 today.
Yes.
Okay. You feel more empowered that you can do it, that it's in your abilities.
Yes.
Okay. Who's logging on this evening to do track? Awesome. Awesome. And track will definitely, especially you only being on board a couple of weeks, track will take, like, there will be a lot of growth through track. Like, it will have education and activities throughout it. So it'd be great. Have you participated before?
No.
Track? No? Okay. Okay. So
What time is it?
so I'm opening this up. It's citywide. I'm doing a Tuesday. It's all Zoom. Tuesday from 6 to 7, and Thursday mornings 9:30 to 10:30. Now you choose one or the other, or if there's a week you need to flip to the other session, you can. I'm just trying to support brokerages, especially with the Tuesday evening for dual career and those that have other responsibilities. This is track here, and so it's with the locker room. It's 12 weeks, and I know we have holidays. So this is going to go mid to end of January as far as working through this. So it is workbook and video driven through the locker room. And then we need to meet up once a week just as to kind I really to keep everyone motivated and to, if there were any challenges, work through those. And then if I see anything going on that a one-on-one could benefit you, if I can do that, great. If not, I mean, you guys definitely here have a resource that I could partner with Brian and say, hey, why don't you walk them through this, or why don't you have a one-on-one centered around, you know, this or that. So I'm just kind of, well, I'm not kind of, I am helping the brokerages and take some off their plate in the fourth quarter. You're welcome to jump on.
Get the book ahead of time, or?
Brian, do you have any books?
I have a few books in my office. They are $15 and can be added to your office bill. The kicker is, Stephanie says, if you sign up for the locker room, fantastic, $15 as long as you finish the program. If you don't finish them, if you opt out early on or whatever, because the books cost us $30.
Yeah.
That other $15 will be added to an office bill later on.
Yeah, so that 15 is a good deal. In the locker room, there's also a PDF that you can print it out yourself. It's gonna cost to print. I mean, it's gonna cost you that much. We don't make a profit on them. They're on Amazon. Also, it's just a resource for us to be able to get them to people quickly, leverage out the shipping and all. So tonight we're kicking it off. It's more of an info session of just what track is and just some general, you know, foundational rules and that kind of thing. And then you'll start working through it, but it's guided activities and learning for 12 sessions.
So someone had a question earlier.
Okay.
That I thought was a good question. If they sign up for the 6 o'clock class and for some reason they miss one, is it a big deal for them to show up to the Zoom for the 9 o'clock on Thursday?
No, it's not a big deal at all.
Okay.
Totally okay. It's at 9:30.
9:30.
Yeah, 9:30 to 10:30 on Thursday mornings.
Okay.
It's the same class, just different days.
Launched on both this week and moving forward. Now, as the 12 weeks or a little longer go on, you know, I always say if you get behind, stay where you are and finish that week and then change. So the group may get on some different weeks, but it's okay. Our huddles are still informative and it's more motivation than anything, you know, logging in there and just keeping everyone going. So this is the first time I've done it. Well, I have to say really statewide because there's a couple from Tulsa logging in. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
When's your first one?
We actually launch this week. So tonight at 6 or Thursday at 9:30. And it's just chuckwellszoom.com. Just log onto it like you would a normal website, and it'll take you right into Zoom. And I'll let you into the room. Even if you want to log in tonight, Stacey, and just for this on Thursday and just see what all is in the course, that's kind of that introductory. First one is just me showing you the breakdown and what to expect, and then you can choose if you feel like it'll benefit you. The idea around track is to take your business from 0 to 25 transactions in a year, not in the 12 weeks. I mean, hey, if you can do it in the 12 weeks, kudos to you. Maybe a little crazy. Or if you're already in business, in production, just growing you from where you are to 25. That's the whole concept. So it is production, but there's a lot around systems, time management, social media. There's a whole week focus on social media and being more intentional there. Growing skill set of buyers, sellers, or listing appointment, buyer consultation, listing appointment, all of that. So. But we'd love to have you if you want to jump on and kind of see a little demo of it. All right, guys.
What's the fee?
There's not one. There's not one.
Buy the book.
Buy the book.
Buy a book?
Yeah. Yeah, no fee. Because the brokerage is a member or pays to be a part of the locker room, so for the coaching program, well, brokerage. So.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Well, if you guys have any questions from today, you're more than welcome to reach out to me directly. I post in your coaching Facebook group. You can find me there on social media, wherever. I have a 4:30 back up in Oklahoma City, so I'm gonna have to jump in the car and head that way. But if you do have any questions, reach out and, or I'll see you on Zoom in a little while.
Will you do this class again anytime soon, or, my office mate she's filling in for someone at her old job for the next few months while they're on maternity leave. And so she wasn't able to make it today, but I know that this information is, she needs it, so,
I am doing it for some other brokerages. My thought is, I was gonna, because Skylar was on earlier, I was gonna reach
Right.
out to Stephanie and see if she would like me to do a Zoom that can include Halls Valley and Ardmore
Yeah.
agents and potentially anyone that missed.
I think that would be awesome.
So,
And this Zoom is recorded, obviously.
Oh, okay,
okay,
And
so she can log in.
this is gonna be a higher priority to get her uploaded, to get it uploaded to the office YouTube page.
Okay, can I take one of an
Yeah.
extra one to give to her? Cause, she needs this. I think she would like to see this. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All righty. Sounds like a plan.